Hello, and welcome to the Futurum Tech Webcast. I'm Shelly Kramer, Principal Analyst here at Futurum Research. And today I am joined by Jeff Hausman, the Chief Product Officer for Samsara. And we are going to have a conversation about digitalization, AI, and what's ahead for 2023. And you know what? That's a really big bucket, but I can promise you this is going to be a really interesting conversation. So for starters, I don't have to tell anybody that in the last decade, unprecedented change has kind of been the catchphrase to identify everything that we've been going through, right? And so not only is unprecedented change a thing, everything is connected. And we've got, organizations have literally trillions of data points at their fingertips. And those data points, when used effectively, will help them make decisions faster, increase productivity, increase efficiency, all of which will have a major impact on the bottom line. That said, one of the things that our team here at Futurum knows firsthand in dealing with our clients across every sector and every industry is that data is a challenge. Managing it, utilizing it, storing it, all of these things. Data presents huge challenges. It can very often feel overwhelming. So our conversation today and what Jeff is going to dive into a little bit is, how organizations can maybe think about data differently, how they can make sure they're capitalizing on the data that they have, preparing for the change ahead, and actually leaning into increased productivity and greater efficiency and the ability to get more done more quickly, generally speaking, often with less resources, because that's kind of the business climate that we live in today. So with that, Jeff, welcome. It's great to have you.
It is great to be here, and thank you for having me, Shelly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So before we talk about Samsara, tell me a little bit, if you would, about your career and kind of where you've been and what you've done and how you got here.
Sure. Well, listen, I have a background that's really focused on helping customers get value. And I've done that in several areas throughout my career, from data analytics to storage and data protection, security, and digital workflows, and a strong emphasis on working with cloud delivered solutions. So I've been with bigger companies, names people are probably familiar with: ServiceNow, McAfee, Hewlett
Yeah.
Packard, Veritas.
Yeah.
I've held C-level roles with early stage companies, and I am a recovering consultant. So I worked at Booz Allen and some other decision analysis consulting companies. But really, my passion, it's all about building and delivering products and solutions that are going to help customers get value.
Yeah, absolutely. I always felt like that was sort of that kind of everything that my whole career has been centered on. I mean, there's a better way to do this, there's a different way to do this. And really, I remember years ago, I had a colleague, and this is back in my consulting days, and we would go to new business meetings together, and we would talk about solutions and costs, and my colleague's attitude was often, well, it just costs what it costs. I mean, that's just what it costs. And he was a creative director, and I loved him, and he was brilliant, and his work was so brilliant, but I hated him saying that it costs what it costs, and you just have to kind of suck it. I mean, the rest of that sentence is you just kind of have to suck it up and pony up the dough. And I don't believe that. I believe there's a way to help your clients get to great value and great solutions and sustainable solutions. And so I'm happy we share a passion. Right,
Mhm.
Jeff, we share a passion. So now we're going to shift our conversation a little bit, and we're going to talk about increasing the safety and efficiency and sustainability of operations that today power our global economy. And I know that, well, Samsara, that's something you know a little bit about, isn't it?
Mhm. And it's actually one of the things that drew me to Samsara, the
Yeah,
fact that we can help customers solve real world problems. A lot of
yeah.
these customers that we work with, they have all sorts of different types of challenges, from rising fuel costs, inflationary pressure, supply chain issues, helping make sure that they're operating safely, et cetera. And these are endemic to sort of physical operations, right? And
Right.
this world of physical operations is one where Samsara is trying to help digitize the world of physical operations. We're working to help take that power of IoT data and deliver insights so they can operate more efficiently, safely, and sustainably. And maybe I should share a little bit about some of our customers and how they get value, if that makes
That
sense.
would be great. That would be great.
So we have tens of thousands of customers, right? And our customers, I like to think of them as they power the global economy. They span a variety of industries: transportation, logistics, supply chain, manufacturing, even food and beverage, field services, construction, utilities, public sector. And the biggest challenges that they face: how can they run things better? How can they run things in a safe manner? Because a lot of times we're talking about heavy machinery, we're talking about sites that are in rigorous and physically demanding locations and situations. And our goal is, how do we help them do that? So let me highlight a couple of examples of how data actually can be at the root and the heart of helping them, right?
Okay.
Back to your early point. So one of the largest independent food distributors in the US. They have to maintain, think about this, what we call supply chain integrity of the food. So when the food is delivered to them or they first pick it up, they have to take it all the way to the store and ensure that the cold chain of custody, so to speak, is managed. They have to make sure that their drivers are complying with regulations. They have
Right.
to maximize the assets that they've got, because really, at the end of the day, they have to run their business. They have to figure out where they're running and how they're running, and they need to manage costs. So things like fuel efficiency. So we help them. We collect data via sensors. These sensors are on vehicles, they're gateways on vehicles. There are temperature sensors. They can be in the back, if you will, of trailers, or integrated, if you will, into third party, what you call reefer trailers. They can be deployed in warehouses. And we can integrate and take the data from physical devices. We have third party data. We can analyze it, and we can surface insights that then they can use to take action. So
Right.
one example that they saw is they were able to reduce credit payouts for rejected deliveries. So if the food shows up and the food is not chain of custody properly maintained, it can be rejected by the receiving party. They reduced that by 30%, while also saving on fuel efficiency and other operating costs. So pretty amazing how you
Yeah.
can take data to solve and run a business better.
Well, it actually makes perfect sense. Right. I mean, my I have a saying that I will admit to using far too often, but you don't know what you don't know until you know.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not collecting data, if you're not managing data, if you're not using that data and gleaning insights from that data and then applying it to your business decision making, you're kind of shooting without a target. I mean, it really is that simple. Um,
Absolutely.
you
And
know,
our,
if,
our whole our whole goal is, how do you take that data? How do you process it in a way? But then how do you make sure that you're surfacing it in a
yeah,
way that the customer can make sense of it and take action on it? This is not about just data for the sake of data. We gather billions of data points on a regular basis. But it's not about that. It's about surfacing the important insights. It's helping people run as best possible, make sure that they're understanding what, let's say, their assets are doing. How are they being utilized? How do they get the most useful life out of them? Should they even do things like renting them or leasing them as opposed to buying them? From a safety standpoint, how do you understand a specific driver's safety score or record, and how do you help them be better? How do you manage the overall company safety risk, right? How do
right.
you look at information related to carbon emissions, because people need to present and report things in ESG reports? How do you navigate transitions to electric vehicles? There're just so many things that by taking data and analyze, you can help people run safer, more efficient, and more sustainably.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and we do a lot of work in the ESG space, and I do have to say that, as many organizations are focused and have been for, the better part of the last decade and will continue to be focused on all things digital transformation, they're also concurrently focused on sustainability. And,
Hmm.
the challenge here is that many organizations have planted a flag in 2030 or 2040 or 2050. We're going to have certain accomplishments. And, they really, and now what we're seeing happening is organizations are going, holy moly, like that's just around the corner. What are we going to do? What technology solutions exist to help us reach our goals? What technology solutions help us to track and measure and manage our path to success here. So I think that's incredibly important. So this connected operations cloud of Samsara's is what it is that you have that allows businesses to harness their IoT data. Is that correct?
That's correct. Our
Yeah.
connected operations cloud is, think of it as the system of record for physical operations. It is
Okay.
a common platform in which we're able to pull and analyze and manage data, but then we have a set of applications that customers can use. And that suite of applications is ever increasing, but it includes things related to telematics or things related to safety or things related to site visibility or asset tracking. And we help our customers then get access, like I said, to the insights from that data so they can use it to drive coaching behaviors for safety, efficiency and driver usage and driver fuel management, and the way that they run their vehicles, the way that they use and understand where their assets are. So for instance, we have a large crane operator, for instance. Every time that crane goes out to a particular site, it's not just the crane, it's all the other rigging parts that have to show up. And if you don't have all the right
Right.
pieces and parts,
You can't do
you're not able to
anything.
do the job, right? So
Yeah.
helping them literally make sure that they understand what they have and how do they do things better.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that makes sense. So, what about now? You have to get, I would imagine, customer requests to integrate with third party companies that they're already working with. How do you handle that?
Well, look, I go back to, it all starts with the customer and the outcomes they're trying to drive, right? So our goal is to help them get those right outcomes with this system of record. And we welcome integrations to help drive different outcomes. We have, Shelly, over 220 partner integrations already available and constantly growing. We're the largest open ecosystem in our industry. And these integrations span a whole host of different industries and a whole host of different areas, excuse me, including compliance, fuel management, insurance, maintenance, navigation, routing and dispatch, safety coaching, supply chain, transportation management, and even OEMs. Let me highlight a couple of examples for you. So we have a customer called ArcBest. They're a logistics company. They've been in business for almost a century. All right. They integrate into their own software and they're using it to minimize manual tasks and manual management and increase accuracy of hours of service compliance, which is an ELD compliance regulation. Or another company, Liberty Energy. They do oil field service kind of management and whatnot. And they integrate into financial systems and other systems because we have open APIs. They've saved over 10,000 hours and 300,000 in administrative costs in a single year. So it gets back to the point of we integrate with all different types. I can go and talk about specific examples in a minute, but it's all in service of helping them get access to the insights, combining that with other systems data and whatnot in order to drive an outcome.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just having a conversation with a vendor right before I popped over here. And one of the things that he was mentioning is that as they were exploring certain solutions to add to their tech stack, one of the questions is, what integrations are there? Does this integrate into my CRM, or where does this integrate here? And decisions were made solely based on the answer to that question. So I think that's a really, really important part of the Samsara value proposition.
Yeah, in fact, on average, we have for our large customers, they tend to integrate with 6 other systems.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
putting it in perspective, that notion of, I described the cold chain example, right? We integrate with OEMs such as Thermo King, right?
Yeah.
Or Carrier, who build reefer, if you will, or deliver the reefer
Yeah.
trailers. Being able to take that information in and bidirectionally be able to control the settings, if you will. So you get alerted if, wait a minute, I'm supposed to have frozen foods and now the temperature is climbing, making sure you're able to alert on that, potentially go and correct that and change that remotely as a dispatcher. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's powerful, but it's really a significant, all the things that we're talking about, Jeff, really come down to, in my view, kind of one really key thing. And that is the ability to establish a competitive advantage. And I think that thinking about, when you're considering the addition of some piece of technology into your tech stack, I think that needs to be part of the conversation. And this is, a career brand strategist showing showing my roots here. But I think that's an important part of the value proposition. I want to win. Right. And I always want to win when working alongside our clients. So talk a little bit, if you will, about how you have customers who are able to take these vast amounts of data, and I was when you think about data, sometimes it's incomprehensible. Like, I was looking at your website earlier today, and it looks like, you are collecting 4+ trillion data points annually.
It's actually up at 6 already. But
Okay, then you need
yes,
to
the
update your
point is
website.
there. The point is
Right?
lots and lots of data, right?
Lots
And
and
that
lots
is
of
that
data
is a
and
recently,
millions. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I was going to say that's a recently updated
Yeah,
stat for us, right?
yeah,
Because we do this on a regular basis. But you're right, it's not about just data. It's about how do you actually get to the heart? How do you get to the insight? And how do you deliver the right data to the right people, the right time, in the right way that they can actually
right.
consume it? And so, we have a number of customers that are, again, using us to unlock operational efficiencies, which helps make them more competitively advantaged. So maybe an example that highlights this is a company that I did a recent discussion with called Logistics Warehouse. Now they're using video data, and they're analyzing that video data in their production warehouse. And one of the things that they found, Shelly, is we were able to help them understand and see where they were having unplanned pauses on their production line. So literally the video data could expose to them when this was happening and flag and alert inactivity. They were able to take that and turn it into alerting behaviors, change of behaviors on the production lines, and they are now producing 45% more per day on those production lines. That's increased their profit margins by 8%. That is absolutely showing how you can use video data and analyze it to
Yeah.
then drive the business to better outcomes and be more competitively strong.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. And part too of, I think, what we're touching on here is, one of the things that we know as a reality is that creating a culture of continuous learning is important across the board for just about any organization. And that's what I've noticed you hitting on a couple of times is, training, retraining, using the data that we're seeing from video or otherwise to say, you know what, Jeff, I know this is how we've been doing it, and that's great, but let me coach you into a way that we might do this slightly differently because this is what the data is showing us that we need. And then you can walk away from that interaction with Jeff. You can get him back on the right track or on the right track. And then we can go back in the space of 10 days or 30 days, and we can see the impact of that. And that kind of sells itself.
Yeah, here's an interesting one. Many of our customers are still using heavily paper-based workflows or paper-based tooling, right?
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to visit with a customer who is going through this transformation. And every time they were dispatching, there were mounds of paper, making sure that people knew what was supposed to be going out with the particular load,
Right.
making sure that the right driver was going to the right location, literally showing a hand drawn map of what route they were supposed to take. Now, think about it. If you can digitize all of that, bring it into a system,
Right.
then you can, in real time, help them to see, holy cow, you could actually do this much more efficiently by taking pictures and using
Yeah.
forms rather than doing something related to ticking off pieces of paper.
Yeah.
Or more importantly, if there's all of a sudden a disruption, and let's say that the route you were put on, there's an accident. How do you reroute if you don't have the ability to real
Shuffle
time
all your papers.
communicate, correct, communicate to the driver in their application on their mobile device. Hey,
Yeah,
here's a new way to go. Let me
yeah,
alert you that you need to do something differently. It's amazing what you can do when you actually bring this stuff in a digitized framework, if you
yeah.
will, and then you help people to be able to do things better.
Well,
Absolutely.
and I think that when you are an executive leader and you're evaluating a technology spend, right? And I think it's really important for all of us in leadership positions to step back and say, imagine if I was doing this, right? And the last thing any of us wants is this sheaf of papers. I mean, it's like reading an instruction manual. Who wants to do that? I was doing some I was doing a little project with the team, Amazon Devices team, a couple of weeks ago, and they launched a car cam for that goes in cars, and it's a dual facing camera, and it's in the Ring doorbell family of products, right? So you think about why people use Ring doorbells, people would use a Ring car cam for sort of the same thing. And one of the things that they asked me to do was to install it. And they did not hear me groaning when on the phone when we were talking about this, but I was groaning because that is my least favorite thing to do. But what was so exciting about the process of the installation was that I needed one thing, just this. And it walked me through the system, the process, the workflow, everything. I was able to just navigate 1, 2, 3 on my phone, and I kept remarking how amazing it was. So that's, when you think about this and you put yourself in the shoes of your workforce, your drivers, other users of this platform, and you think about which option are they going to be more effective at, more efficient. We had a situation similarly when we had a video crew on site at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, and we had a document that was being updated in real time that was kind of just modifying recording schedules as needed. And one of our Barcelona-based film crew was still going the old school route, and they had printed off a spreadsheet that had ultimately changed. So it's kind of like your situation where you needed to reroute. How are you going to do that? I mean, we all really need that to be on the devices that are in our hands,
Yeah.
whether it's a
Well,
phone, whether it's an iPad, whatever.
we clearly need to have you go through the experience of installing one of our devices, which we all do, because it's the same thing. There is
Yeah.
literally a walkthrough. You scan a QR code on the device and it walks you through installing that in the vehicle. And it is so easy to do
But it's
that
a beautiful experience
it
when
is,
when you're the person
yes,
walking through it. You're just going, "Oh my God, this is so look, here it is, right here." Everything I need is right here. I don't have to go look for something. I don't have to. And
yep,
that when you start off a relationship with an end user on that foot, you're in good shape moving forward, I think.
yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about, I know that we talked about this in the early part of the show. Businesses are facing enormous pressures, supply chain disruptions, energy costs that keep rising, talent shortages, talent constraints, budget constraints. And of course, as we also talked about, the pressure to improve on the sustainability front. So, what are you seeing? What challenges do you see customers kind of wrestling with this year? And where do you see this is a two-part question? One, what challenges do you see customers wrestling with this year? And then the second part of my question is, where do you see the biggest opportunities for digitization that can help kind of surmount those challenges?
Sure. Well, I'll start with the fact that yes, we know that there are a number of challenges, and frankly, our customers are telling us they feel, and we see them continuing to face those challenges that you just mentioned. They're not going to
Yeah,
go away,
they're
whether
not.
those are related to supply chain, just general efficiency, talent shortages. They're going to continue to be there. And so, what we want to do is we want to help them to appreciate and understand. Again, back to the point that these are kind of data problems. And
Right.
if you understand your business, you can drive better decisions, and these can help you to address, anticipate in some cases, and certainly to respond and adapt to drive better performance. So, for instance, we have an example of a customer who uh, fuel efficiency was a big challenge for them, right? Fuel expenses can be a major non-headcount cost for these organizations. And in one particular customer case, this is a company called GP Transco, they were realizing and seeing that their fuel expense was pretty high. And they were able to work with us to understand that idling was actually contributing substantially. So they were having drivers who were idling vehicles. We were able to help them reduce those idling events by 35%. That saved them over 200,000 gallons of fuel in a year. Shelly, this is
That's
enormous.
huge.
And these are the types of things that are not going to go away just because there are going to be other new problems. Fuel and
Right.
usage and consumption is going to clearly be one.
Yeah.
Utilization of assets is going to continue to be a problem, et cetera. So the bottom line is that I would say we're going to keep helping our customers in these areas of efficiency and safety and sustainability, and we will keep working with them. But the other important thing is that on our platform, we are constantly working with what we call the flywheel of success with customers. They help us actually see how to take our data. We talked about integrations, how to bring data into our platform or work with other systems to unlock other areas of opportunity and savings. So it's really the customers who start saying, I have this type of challenge. And our goal is to try and say, how can we take the data and our platform and continue to extend it and continue to build it in such a way that people can use the insights to solve other types of challenges.
Yeah.
One big one that I'm sure we'll get into is that everybody is talking about what's going to happen in the area of electric vehicles and electrification.
Yeah.
So I just talked about fuel usage. Well, there are also customers who are going through this transition trying to determine which vehicles should potentially be actually transitioned or what
Right.
routes are possible to be shifted to vehicles that are electric. How do I manage maintenance is a very different thing. There are elements of battery usage and management different from fossil fuel usage and management. And so the
Yeah.
point is, we're going to have to keep evaluating and evolving with our customers.
Yeah.
And we're excited to do that. You're going to see us bringing out more and more different types of solutions as the challenges change and increase. But I think, frankly, the three ones that we just talked about, they're somewhat durable in the next year for
Yeah.
sure.
I think you're absolutely right. So my last question is a very hot topic. Let's talk about AI a little bit. And what do you see as interesting? I mean, there's a lot of things going on in this space that are interesting. What do you see as interesting as it relates to Samsara and serving your customer base?
Well, I'll tell you, I'm fascinated by this notion of how AI is going to keep evolving. And it's
Yeah.
going to help us find new ways to bring suggestions and insights and answers to customers.
Yeah.
Right? Today, we use a lot of AI around computer vision technology. So this is leveraging data from our dash cams, bi-directional, inward and outward facing, helping understand and correct risky driving behaviors, right?
Okay.
Trying to do it in the moment and ideally correct it before something unfortunate happens,
Sure.
right? Distraction is a leading cause of accidents, and we've had customers dramatically improve their incident rates. In fact, I was talking with a customer a few months ago in Europe, and I won't name them, but in this particular situation, our technology caught a driver who was driving late at night falling asleep. The dispatch was alerted, able to get the driver to pull off to the side of the road and take a break. That particular driver ended up writing in to tell the management that the technology that they
Saved
had
his life.
deployed saved his life.
Yeah.
And he thanked them so much for the investment. And the point is, that is done by use of AI. But
Yeah.
I think when you look at the massive amount of data that we have, we talked about the 6 trillion data points that we have, right?
Yeah.
The different types of challenges. I think you're going to see us find new ways of applying AI. And by the way, we have a pretty big team of world-class data scientists that are
Yeah.
focused on how can they work and partner with customers to unlock data by using AI and machine learning in different ways. So The bottom line is it's important, it's something we're focused on, and we
Yeah,
also do believe very strongly in ethical AI, trying to avoid bias and protecting customer privacy while we're doing this. So we'll take a measured approach, but I'm
right.
super excited that there are going to be some new breakthroughs that we deliver for customers.
I think that's very exciting. And as someone who has actually been riding in a taxi and had the taxi driver fall asleep, this technology is, in fact, life-saving technology. So,
That is a story for another day, and I'm glad that you're still here to tell it.
yeah, absolutely. Well, Jeff Hausman, Chief Product Officer for Samsara, thank you so much for making time to join me today. What a terrific conversation. I very much look forward to continuing to watch what you and the Samsara team are doing, and lots of exciting things ahead, I'm sure.
Shelly, thank you so much for having me, and we are very excited about how the power of our connected operations cloud is going to keep helping customers.
Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. Well, with that, thanks to you, Jeff. Thanks to our viewing audience, our listening audience. I'll include information in the show notes on where you can learn more about Samsara and where you can stalk Jeff on LinkedIn and get answers to any questions that you have. And so, with that, that's a wrap, and we'll see you next time.